At 82, I've seen a lot in my life. I've celebrated countless birthdays, watched my children grow up, and even welcomed grandchildren into this world. But there's one decision I deeply regret: moving into a nursing home. When my family first brought up the idea, it seemed reasonable. They worried about me living alone. "You'll have all the care you need," they promised. "You won't have to worry about cooking or cleaning anymore." It sounded convenient, even luxurious. But what I discovered after moving in was nothing like what I'd imagined. The reality of nursing home life hit me hard, and I wish someone had told me the truth before I packed up my life and moved in. Today, I want to share with you 6 harsh truths I learned, things no one tells you about nursing homes. Whether you're considering this option for yourself or for someone you love, you need to hear this. Because once you move in, getting out isn't as simple as you might think. Stay with me until the end, because some of these lessons might surprise you. The last one especially. It's something most seniors don't realize until it's too late. This video might be exactly what you or someone you know needs to hear before making a life-changing decision. Don't miss the final insight. It's one that most people overlook, yet it holds incredible power in predicting what lies ahead. These markers could completely reshape how you see your future and add valuable years to your life. If this has sparked your interest, show your support by hitting the like button, subscribing to our channel, and sharing this video with those you care about. Together, let's make informed choices for a healthier, longer life. If you're finding value in what I'm sharing, please comment "lesson" below to let me know you're here. Now let's get started with the first harsh truth. Lesson 1. Losing your independence. The biggest shock after moving into a nursing home wasn't the small room or the unfamiliar faces. It was the sudden, crushing realization that I had lost control over my own life. Before moving in, I had my routines. I decided when to wake up, when to eat, what to eat, and how to spend each day. I could take a walk whenever I wanted, cook my favorite meals, or simply sit in my favorite chair with a good book for hours. My time was my own. But inside the nursing home, that freedom vanished overnight. Everything runs on a schedule that isn't yours. Breakfast happens at 7:30 a.m., whether you're hungry or not. Lights out by 10 p.m., even if you've been a night owl your entire life. Want to go outside for fresh air? You might need permission and will probably have to wait until someone is available to assist you. Let me tell you about Robert. He was 78, a retired engineer who had lived independently his entire adult life. He loved staying up late working on small projects and would sleep until 9 or 10 every morning. After moving to the nursing home, he was expected to be up by 6:30 a.m. for medication and breakfast. His evening projects were impossible with the early curfew. Within months, the spark in his eyes dimmed. "I feel like a child again," he told me one day. "Except children eventually grow up and get their freedom. We're just stuck. Simple decisions, what to wear, what to eat, when to shower, suddenly feel like privileges rather than basic rights." I remember my first week, waking up in a bed that didn't feel like mine, reaching for a book I'd been reading, only to realize it was still packed away somewhere. The little comforts I'd spent years collecting were gone. In their place were sterile walls, a bed I didn't choose, and a profound feeling that I was no longer in charge of my own life. The hardest part? Realizing that once you give up your independence, getting it back is nearly impossible. You adapt because you have to. You stop arguing when they tell you what's for dinner. You stop asking if you can go for a walk whenever you want. You learn to fit into their system, but in the process, you start losing yourself. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself this crucial question. Are you ready to give up the daily freedoms that make life yours? Because once they're gone, you'll miss them more than you ever thought possible. Here's my advice. If you can safely maintain any level of independence, fight to keep it. Consider alternatives like in-home care, where help comes to your house but you maintain control of your schedule. Look into semi-independent living communities where you have your own space but access to assistance when needed. And if a nursing home becomes necessary, research facilities that prioritize resident autonomy and have flexible schedules. Lesson 2. Feeling forgotten. One of the hardest truths about moving into a nursing home is realizing that the world outside keeps moving without you. When I first arrived, my family reassured me they would visit often. I believed them, and in the beginning, they did. My daughter came by once a week. My grandchildren visited on weekends. For a little while, it felt like I still had a connection to my old life. But as months passed, the visits became less frequent. My daughter started calling instead of coming. My grandchildren got busy with school and work. Holidays were the hardest. Everyone promised they'd come, but somehow plans always changed at the last minute. Suddenly, I found myself sitting alone in a common room, watching other residents stare at the door, hoping today would be the day someone remembered them. Take Margaret's story. Her family threw her a big moving-in party when she arrived at the nursing home. Everyone came. Her 3 children, 8 grandchildren, even neighbors from her old community. They promised weekly visits and brought photo albums to decorate her room. 6 months later, only one daughter visited regularly. The others called occasionally but were too busy to make the trip. The photos on her wall became painful reminders of connections that were fading away. It wasn't that my family stopped loving me. Life just got in the way. When you're not around every day, it's easy for people to assume you're fine, that you're adjusting, that you don't need as much attention. But the truth is, the longer you're in a nursing home, the easier it becomes for people to forget just how much you still need them. I remember one evening sitting in my room, holding my phone, debating whether to call my son. I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want to remind him that I was here, waiting for a visit that might never come. So I put the phone down, and that's when it hit me. This was my life now. Watching the days go by, hoping someone would remember to include me. If you're thinking about moving into a nursing home or helping a loved one make that decision, ask yourself, are you prepared for the loneliness? Because no matter how much your family loves you, once you're out of sight, it's easier than you think to become out of mind. What can help? Be proactive about staying connected. Schedule regular video calls with family. Ask for specific visit days rather than vague promises. Encourage grandchildren to send letters or artwork. And if you're a family member of someone in a nursing home, understand that your consistent presence matters more than you know. Put visits on your calendar as non-negotiable appointments. Even short, frequent visits mean more than occasional long ones. If you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, please comment "Forgotten" below to let me know you're here. Your support helps me continue creating content that matters. Now let's move on to the third lesson. Lesson 3. Losing your sense of purpose. When I moved into the nursing home, I thought I was just changing where I lived. I didn't realize I was also changing why I lived. At home, I had responsibilities. I had routines, hobbies, and reasons to get up in the morning. Even the small things, watering the plants, making my own coffee, tidying up my space, gave me a sense of purpose. But in the nursing home, those daily rituals disappeared. Meals were made for me. Cleaning was done by someone else. The plants, they weren't mine to take care of anymore. At first, I told myself it would be nice to finally relax. No more chores, no more responsibilities, just rest. But after a few weeks, I realized something was missing. The days felt long, stretched out with nothing to do but wait. I saw it in other residents too. People who had once been full of energy now spent their days sitting, staring, waiting for time to pass. There was a man named George, 84 years old, who had been a carpenter his entire life. At home, he was always fixing things, building little projects in his garage. But here, there were no tools, no projects, nothing for him to create. I watched as he slowly withdrew, his hands, once strong and skilled, now idle in his lap. "I feel useless," he told me one day, and I knew exactly what he meant. When you no longer have something to care for, something to work toward, life starts to lose its meaning. The mind slows down, the body follows, and soon you start to feel like just another resident in a place where time moves, but nothing really changes. This loss of purpose affects not just your emotional well-being, but your physical health too. Studies show that older adults who maintain meaningful activities and responsibilities tend to live longer, healthier lives. They have lower rates of depression, better cognitive function, and even stronger immune systems. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, what gives your life meaning? Because once you move in, finding purpose isn't as simple as filling your time. It's about fighting to hold on to the things that make you feel alive. Here's my advice. Before moving, identify what activities give your life meaning and ask if you can continue them in the facility. If you love gardening, find out if there's a garden club or plant boxes residents can tend. If you enjoy cooking, ask if there's a kitchen residents can use occasionally. Some nursing homes now offer purpose programs where residents help with simple tasks around the facility, volunteer to read to other residents, or participate in community projects. And remember, it's never too late to find new purpose. I met a woman who learned to paint at 87 and now teaches other residents. Another man started recording his life stories as a legacy for his grandchildren. The key is to keep contributing, creating, and connecting in whatever ways you still can. Lesson 4. Declining health faster than expected. Before I moved into the nursing home, I was doing well for my age. I wasn't running marathons, but I could still take care of myself, go for walks, and cook my own meals. I had my little routines that kept me moving. Grocery shopping, stretching in the mornings, even just walking around the house to keep my legs strong. But once I moved in, everything changed. At first, it seemed like I was just taking it easy. Meals were brought to me. I no longer had to stand in the kitchen to cook. If I needed something, I could just push a button and someone would come help. But what I didn't realize was that the less I did for myself, the weaker I became. I stopped moving as much and soon my legs felt stiffer. I sat more than I used to, and before I knew it, getting up from a chair started feeling like a chore. The muscles I had spent years maintaining were disappearing faster than I ever expected. And it wasn't just me. I saw it happen to others too. People who walked in on their own 2 feet were suddenly relying on wheelchairs. People who had once been independent now needed help with things they never struggled with before. The more help we were given, the more we seemed to need it. I remember my neighbor Alice, an 81-year-old woman who was lively when she first arrived. She used to take daily walks around the facility, insisting that she wasn't going to slow down just because of her age. But after a few months, I noticed she wasn't walking as much. Then she started using a walker, then a wheelchair. One day she looked at me and said, "I don't know when it happened, but I feel like I aged 10 years in just a few months." That's exactly what it felt like. When you stop using your body, you start losing it. And in a nursing home, where everything is designed to make things easier, it's easy to forget that movement isn't just about convenience. It's about surviving. This phenomenon has a name. It's called accelerated aging, and it happens when our bodies aren't challenged enough. Without regular movement and activity, muscles atrophy, bone density decreases, and balance deteriorates. Even cognitive function can decline more rapidly without the stimulation of daily activities and problem solving. If I had known how quickly I would lose my strength, I would have fought harder to keep moving, to stay active, to push myself even when I didn't feel like it. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, will you still have the motivation to keep your body strong when everything is set up to make life effortless? Because once you slow down, getting back up isn't as easy as you think. Here's what I wish I'd done differently. First, insist on a physical activity plan as part of your care. Many facilities have exercise programs, but they're often optional and basic. Ask for personalized recommendations based on your abilities. Second, set daily movement goals, even simple ones like walking to the dining room instead of using a wheelchair when you're able. Third, look for a facility with rehabilitation services and access to physical therapy even for residents who haven't had an injury or surgery. If you're still watching and finding value in what I'm sharing, please comment "health" below. Your engagement means a lot. Now, let's continue with our 5th lesson. Lesson 5. The loss of privacy and dignity. One of the things I didn't fully consider before moving into a nursing home was just how much privacy I would lose. At home, I had my own space. I could close my bedroom door, sit in silence if I wanted, and do things on my own terms. But in a nursing home, privacy becomes a luxury you don't always get to keep. From the moment I arrived, I felt like I was constantly being watched. Staff coming in and out, scheduled room checks, and shared spaces where you're rarely alone. Even simple things like getting dressed or using the bathroom often required someone's assistance. I know they were just doing their job, but it's not easy to accept help for things you've done independently your entire life. I remember one morning waking up to find a nurse checking my vitals while I was still asleep. No knock, no warning, just someone in my personal space without permission. Another time, I was changing clothes when a staff member walked in without waiting for a response after knocking. These moments may seem small, but they chip away at your sense of dignity day after day. Consider Thomas, who had been a high school principal for 30 years, respected in his community, used to a certain level of privacy and authority. In the nursing home, he had to share a room with a stranger who had dementia and would rummage through his belongings. Staff would discuss his medical conditions within earshot of others. During bathing, multiple aides would sometimes be present, talking over him as if he wasn't there. "I feel like I'm not a person anymore," he confided one day. "Just a task to be completed." Want to take a shower? You might have to wait until someone is available to help. Need to use the restroom? Sometimes pressing the call button means waiting longer than you'd like. Even meal choices are limited. If you don't like what's on the menu that day, well, too bad. And then there's the issue of roommates. Not everyone gets a private room, and sharing a space with someone else, someone you didn't choose, can be frustrating. I was lucky to have a kind roommate, but I heard stories from others who weren't so fortunate. Some had roommates who were loud, unclean, or even had cognitive issues that made sleep nearly impossible. No matter how much you try to make your room feel like home, it's never truly yours. Dignity is a hard thing to lose, and I didn't realize how much of mine I'd have to surrender until I was already there. When people knock, but don't always wait for an answer before coming in. When you're spoken to like a patient instead of a person. When your daily routines are dictated by a schedule you didn't create. It changes you. You start feeling less like yourself and more like just another name on a list. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared to give up the privacy and control you've had your entire life? Because once it's gone, it's hard to get back. Here's what can help. First, research facilities thoroughly. Some emphasize dignity and privacy more than others. Look for places with private rooms if possible, or at least careful roommate matching. Second, be clear about your boundaries from day one, which tasks you can do independently and when you need assistance. Third, bring items that maintain your dignity, your own clothes rather than hospital gowns, personal care products you prefer, photos and mementos that remind staff you're an individual with a rich life history. Lesson 6. Realizing it's harder to leave than you think. When I first moved into the nursing home, I told myself it was temporary. I thought I'd give it a try, see how things went, and if I didn't like it, I could always leave. But what I didn't realize was just how hard it would be to get out once I was in. At first, it seemed simple. If I didn't like it, I'd just go back home. But home wasn't the same anymore. My house sat empty, and maintaining it from a distance became difficult. My children had already started making changes, selling things they thought I wouldn't need, even considering renting out the place. When I brought up the idea of returning, they hesitated. "Are you sure you can manage on your own? Wouldn't it be safer to stay? We just want what's best for you." Their concerns came from a place of love, but they didn't understand how desperately I wanted my freedom back. And then there was the issue of physical decline. After months of living in a place where I didn't have to cook, clean, or even walk very far, I wasn't as strong as I used to be. The independence I once had started slipping away, making the idea of moving back home more difficult than I ever imagined. I wasn't as confident in my ability to live alone, and that fear kept me stuck. I met others who had the same experience. They thought they'd try the nursing home for a little while, only to realize that leaving wasn't as easy as they thought. The longer you stay, the harder it becomes to adjust to life outside. Some people even lost the option entirely. Once their home was sold or their savings were drained by the cost of care, there was no going back. Consider James, who moved to the nursing home after a fall. His plan was to stay for rehabilitation and then return to his condo. But within 3 months, his family had sold his car. By 6 months, they had cleared out his condo and put it on the market. "It's for the best," they assured him. "You're safe here." When his strength returned and he wanted to leave, he had nowhere to go. His entire life had been dismantled, his savings now committed to the facility's monthly fees. That's the part nobody tells you. Moving in feels like a decision you can reverse, but for most people, it isn't. The nursing home slowly becomes your whole world, and before you know it, the outside life you once knew starts feeling like a distant memory. There are also financial barriers to leaving. Many people sell their homes or liquidate assets to pay for nursing home care. Medicare only covers short-term stays, and once your resources are depleted enough to qualify for Medicaid, rebuilding financial independence becomes nearly impossible. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared for the possibility that once you go in, leaving might not be as simple as you think? Because once you settle in, the barriers to leaving, whether financial, physical, or emotional, can be harder to overcome than you expect. Here's my advice. First, consider a trial period with a clear end date, putting this agreement in writing if possible. Second, maintain your home or apartment for at least a few months if you can afford it. Don't let family members rush to sell or clear it out. Third, set specific health and independence goals with physical therapists at the facility, focused on maintaining or regaining the abilities you'd need to live independently. And most importantly, have frank discussions with family members about your desire to preserve the option of leaving if the situation isn't right for you. If you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, please comment "freedom" below to let me know you're here. Your support means the world to me. Looking back, I don't regret growing older, but I do regret believing that a nursing home was my only option. I walked in expecting comfort, safety, and a better quality of life. What I found instead was a world that slowly took away my independence, my privacy, my purpose, and even my sense of self. Does that mean nursing homes are all bad? Not necessarily. Some people genuinely need the level of care they provide. But before you make that decision, think carefully about what you're giving up, because once you move in, life will never be the same. If I could do it over, I would have fought harder to stay in my own home. I would have explored more ways to get help without giving up my freedom. I would have made sure I truly needed to be there before making such a permanent move. And if you're facing this decision, I hope you take the time to ask yourself, is this truly what's best for me? Or is it just what seems easiest right now? Because the life you have today, your routines, your independence, your choices, is worth holding on to for as long as you can. Consider alternatives like in-home care services, adult day programs, naturally occurring retirement communities, NORCs, or technology solutions that can help monitor health and safety while maintaining independence. If a higher level of care becomes necessary, look into assisted living facilities that offer more autonomy than traditional nursing homes. Remember that transitions don't have to be all or nothing. Many older adults successfully age in place with incremental supports added as needed. A housekeeper first, then perhaps meal delivery, followed by in-home health aides for specific tasks. Your life, your dignity, and your sense of self matter at every age. Don't let anyone, even well-meaning family members, convince you that institutional care is the only safe option without exploring all alternatives first. Thank you for watching this video today. If you found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might benefit from hearing these truths. Your support helps me continue creating content that matters. I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences. Have you faced this decision yourself? Or are you helping a loved one navigate these choices? Leave a comment below. Your insights might help others in similar situations. Remember, getting older doesn't have to mean giving up what makes life worth living. Sometimes the harder path, the one that preserves independence, is worth the extra effort. I'll see you in the next video.